Hi, I'm Alex Shideler. I'm a senior at UNCW.
I'm Annalise Gaines, and I'm a freshman here at UNCW.
This is the Developer Podcast. We've had a really long and fun semester here, especially with Leadership 211.
Yes.
It's been super fun.
Yes, we've made a lot of friends along the way, me and Alex included. Did not know each other before this class, and now we're just close. And it's funny because I started out, and this is my first year, and this is Alex's last year.
The last year.
So we had our light table with all of our friends from there that we just truly made this class so fun and amazing, and which is really what we're going to talk about, everything that we've taken from this class, what we're going to use in the future for our lives and careers, personal lives, anything like that. Just basically what we learned here in Leadership 211.
100%. I mean, I think the best place to start is chapter 1.
Yes.
I mean,
from the beginning.
From the very beginning. There's no better place to start than chapter 1 because chapter 1 was the first dive that we took into leadership. I know for myself, I was more into a trait emphasis. So keeping in mind, this was like really before we dive deep into leadership. This was kind of like how we started. So I thought this was interesting that I started out in a trait leadership because I believe that we were kind of like born to be leaders. Like you don't become leaders, you're born to be it, not you can develop this skill, which I think was like really, really interesting that my perspective changed on that.
Yeah, I agree. When we started, I kind of thought that leadership was more of kind of used in like a dictatorship kind of way. Like it was almost, which we go into later in the semester, talking about leadership and management and just the difference between those. But I kind of really thought they were more of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it as more of a process and like skill emphasis and something that kind of couldn't be learned. And it was more kind of like you said, like you're born as a leader. And that's kind of that when, as we've learned through the semester, that that's not the case.
Yeah, 100%. I think the next chapter, chapter 4, was kind of one of our favorites.
Yeah.
It was really fun. After looking at how we viewed leadership, we went on to talk about how we viewed and described leadership behaviors, basically. While taking the questionnaire for this chapter, it was trying to show us if we were task-oriented or like relationship-oriented. And I think that was an important step towards leadership and getting to where we are today, because it was trying to show you where you fell between this range. It's not saying you're one or the other.
Yeah.
It's more so saying like obviously everyone possesses some of these in some sort of way, but there's a range to this, and that is something that it was hard to like understand. Like just because you weren't strong in a trait didn't mean you didn't have it.
Yeah, correct. The thing with me with chapter 4 is taking the questionnaire, I'd kind of figured out that I was both relationship and task, which you would think that when you take a questionnaire, it's either one or the other. And it's kind of hard when you try to differentiate between both if you have both of those. So I have a lot of task-oriented skills, but I also have a lot of relationship behaviors. And so I've always believed myself to be someone that's more relationship-oriented. I love talking to people. Just the fact of getting to know someone has been something that I'm really good at and something that I've enjoyed. So when it came to realizing that I'm also task-oriented, it kind of like threw me for a loop for a little bit because I've never been like an analytic kind of person. So it's just crazy to think that I've noticed these different behaviors that I do have, that even though relationship may be my strongest, that doesn't mean that I don't have tasks.
Yeah.
Or like task-oriented skills.
No, 100%. And that was kind of like the most important part. Like that was what it was like opening for us.
Yeah.
Then the next awesome one, I remember we could not shut up this class because we were talking nonstop.
Yes.
And that was chapter 6. This lesson is something that I know I will remember for the rest of my life, honestly. Because we were getting into such deep conversations and like I felt so bad for Dr. Dar. He was trying to break us up and be like, hey, like we gotta bring it back.
Yes, he's like, guys, you can like, for the longest time he'd be like, I need more. And then this he was like, maybe not more.
He was like, yo, settle down. But this lesson is something, like I said, I'll remember for such a long time. It was kind of like where everything flipped for us, I think.
I agree.
In regards to how we looked and viewed ourselves. When taking the chapter 6 questionnaire, that's kind of like when all of us were like, going crazy because we were all like showing our scores and everything. This was the one, if you guys don't remember, it was encouragement, mediator, implementer, innovator, and then finally analyzer. With our whole table, we were discussing the scores that we got and where we like fell between them. And then I know me and you, we looked at each other and we were like, hey, like, what's your highest ones? Like, what is this? And then we were looking at them, and I know for me, my lowest score was 21, which is still considered in the high range.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we were like, oh my gosh, like, they're not 30s. Like, this one's a 21. And we were like, oh my God, that must be so low. And we turned, like, all of our traits for that were on the high range. And that was something that I thought was so important. Like, these traits are all so incredibly different. But like I said, like, it was hard to wrap our heads around, like, figuring out that leadership doesn't mean you're lacking in something. It just means you're stronger in others and compared to like others, which I thought this chapter just like slapped us in the face.
It was like the turning point in leadership. But for me, I think my lowest was either 22 or 21, which still, like, our entire table, when we were talking about it, we were all in the high range. But I think what I said is that this brought, like, a new understanding to my strengths, kind of like what you just talked about. Thinking about, we have the ones that are high up there and that are, like, high 30s. And we think that those are, like, the ones that we're good at and that we've been told we're good at our whole life. And then we think just everything else is just, like, significantly lower. When in reality, a lot of them can be strengths, but sometimes your strengths are different in their levels. Like, you can have a strength that's even more powerful than another strength, but that doesn't mean the other one's of lesser value. Yeah,
100%. This whole thing, the reason why we're talking about this is because our view on leadership has grown and changed immensely from the beginning. I know mine has changed quite a bit. I know Annalise, I know maybe yours has.
Yes, but I think the most important thing, the biggest thing that changed for me was realizing that I always viewed it as more of a process and something that involves like managing other people as opposed to it being a collaboration process, which it actually is. So that was the biggest change for me, was realizing that it's something that it's not like in math, it's 2 + 2 = 4. Leadership is not that way. Leadership is something that has a million different things that go into it. And leaders can have different qualities, but still be 100%. Good leaders.
100%. It's like there is no right path. There is no straight path. Every path is right, and every path looks different.
Yes, correct.
I also had to change, but I would also add that I sort of thought of it as also like mechanical sort of process. Like, it was like this step, this step, this step, this step. This is how you become a leader. But I have so many different qualities that I would say classify me as a leader, but also qualities that before I wouldn't classify myself as a leader. Like, I get shy in bigger groups of people. I get nervous. So like, but then at the same time, like when it's group projects, I want to lead. I want to make sure. So I'm like, how does that make sense?
Exactly.
But I just think that was like really interesting. And then like another point that changed pretty quickly was when we started taking those questionnaires and seeing how many different traits there truly are that go into leadership. Because like, I didn't realize half of these, like analyzer, I just thought, I didn't know like that's like a trait that you can have, which was like mind blowing to me.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. The biggest thing that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast was finding the difference between leadership and management, and the difference between managers and leaders, which those two are completely different things. All 4 of those words mean so many different things, but just realizing that like manager and leaders and how they differ from management and leadership, and also just the difference between leadership and management in itself, because management is more of the step-by-step process that we both thought leadership was, when leadership is more, it can be a plethora of different things, and it can just be a bunch of different processes put together, and it's more of like a collaboration process, but it can also have more analytical processes and more
100%.
task-oriented things. But just seeing the difference in that management is kind of what we thought leadership was, and now we have this whole new idea of what leadership actually is.
No, 100%. I think that's like the best way we could have ever put it. Like that was like perfect on how we like used to look at it.
Yeah.
But that's like really eye-opening comparison that was made in class that I was like, oh my gosh, like that is not what that's what I thought leadership was, and that's like like that was just crazy.
Exactly.
I always like, in my mind, I like combined the two. Like I thought they were interchangeable, but like learning that they're not was like really crazy to me. Like, leader is the person who embodies the leadership aspects. Like, I had to sit down during class and like say that to myself.
Yeah.
Like, the leader is like those traits embodied, not like, oh, their leadership, you know what I mean? Like, it was like hard to like comprehend that. I also realized that I thought of leadership as like very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like I said, like kind of like mechanical, two-dimensional type thing where it's like, nah, then you get here.
Yeah.
You know, like you need these and then you're a leader. But that's like not it at all. Like, I thought that every leader had to be a problem solver, publicly speak very well, and be friendly. I didn't realize like how complex and like some like leaders may not publicly speak well, but they're just so excited to like talk to people that it like goes away.
Exactly. Yeah. For me, I always kind of like what you said, I always thought a leader was someone that just immediately takes charge in a group, and that's typically the loudest of the bunch, which normally is me. I come from a very loud family, so
I get
it's
it.
typically me. But people who knew how to like fix issues easily within groups.
Yeah.
And that really isn't the case. Although that could be a good leader.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that there are people that don't have those qualities that are bad leaders. So there's people that don't necessarily have these strengths, but that doesn't mean that they can't participate in leadership as well. So there's definitely, like we said before, there's a big spectrum of leadership qualities and traits, and spanning from like more relationship and communication based, kind of like what we've talked about, that's what we're stronger at, all the way to things that are more analytical and like process based qualities as well, that both mean that both are good traits for being a good leader.
Yeah, like for example, with every questionnaire that we took was focused on finding where we fell on that set of characteristics. Like, seeing how all of these characteristics can be used to describe leaders made me like really think like every little thing we do is considered a characteristic or like a little trait, and leaders can have all these qualities but still not be successful. So just because someone has quote unquote the best leadership qualities doesn't mean that they can be successful. Their group or following, whatever they call it, it could be unreceptive, or they just don't have a big enough following to where they actually are making the difference that they want to make. Like this kind of leads into like the segue of like, you can have everything given to you. You can have everything, but if you're not working and striving for it, then you're not going to be successful in that.
Exactly.
Which is like so interesting. Like, this kind of leads into like our third and final question that we could ask, which was like, what were our big takeaways from this class? Like, for one, mine would have been like, this one would have been one. Like, you make what you can out of the situation. Like, you don't, just because you're given a certain hand doesn't mean you roll over and be like, this is it. No, like, you can like strengthen those. Like, you can find every good little thing out of it, which I thought was like so important.
Yeah, me too. I definitely agree with that. I also think one of the biggest things that wasn't exactly what we learned, but kind of one thing that like from the first day of class, I was like, I know I'm going to enjoy this class, was literally just Dr. Dar. The way he taught, just his personality in class truly like made me immediately from then. I like walked into class, even before we had even sat at the table, I was like on the other side of the room the first day. I almost came in late, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I know this is going to be one of my favorite classes this semester.
Yes.
And it's like just the way he teaches, just the way he talks to us, the way he like treats us.
Yes.
And the way he holds us accountable, but still is there to help us, especially through us having a completely different idea of what leadership is, and that changing in our brains, him being there every step of the way. That was like one of the biggest things. And also with that, it being almost like a no pressure class. Like, I felt like I could speak, and if it wasn't right, he would still make sure part of it was right. He would know where I'm coming from. He could see that, like, before I even said it, probably. But I think that was one of like the biggest things, and just the different questionnaires, and like when we did like highlight, shouts, and announcements, like getting to know more about everybody around us. It just kept the class interesting. And I think that was one thing that like almost made it easier for me to learn and refresh my brain about this whole new idea of leadership, because of how interactive and fun and interesting the class was.
No, I 100% agree. Like, when I was sitting there and this wonderful man comes into the room and he's like spouting like all these like great things, I'm like, dang, like he's making me think. Like, he's making me like make my brain and use it in a way that's gonna benefit me in life. Like, I know, I mean, we're all in college. We all know this. I'm talking to you guys too. Like, we all understand.
Yeah.
There are some teachers that don't listen to us. And it's not that they don't listen to us, but it's sort of a respect thing that they feel like they don't need to give us the respect that they give other people. And Dar, when we walked in, the respect and the time that he gave us was so important to me, because I'm like, oh, if he's willing to put all this effort into my teaching, I'm going to give him 100%. I'm going to give him 100%. I'm going to sit there, I'm going to do all the questionnaires, I'm going to answer all the questions, I'm going to be engaged. Like, that, you get what you give. And he says that all the time. Like, he got what he was putting out there. And I love the way he taught, the way he brought all of us in.
I know. It's to the point where I think we're both in the leadership minor now. Like, even though this is Alex's second to last semester, she's crunching it together so she can be in the leadership minor, and I'm making sure that I can be in it for my next 3 years to get to have more of Dar's classes and his teaching, because it's really... This is one of, like, the first, like, thought-provoking classes I've had in college. And I know that it's going to benefit me even these next 3 years, but also even beyond that, depending on whatever career I go into. Like, yes, I'm in film studies, but I don't know exactly what career. But I know that this and just leadership studies as a whole is something that's really going to benefit me no matter where I end up.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You don't even have to be in a leadership position. But understanding, like, I forget which chapter it was, but the one chapter we took and we understood what kind of environment we need to learn in. Like, if they need someone who's like, yo, you got this to do. Like, if it's not done, like, consequences.
Yes.
Or if you need someone who's like, hey, like, you have this to do. You have a timeline. Let me know if you need help. Like, a nurturer over, like, analytical. Like, that was something that was so much more valuable than anything else I feel like I learned in college. Like, that is something that will be irreplaceable to me.
No, I agree. And, like, taking a turn from talking about just the class in itself and everything we've learned in our teachers, I really think where I sat the second day of class influenced the way and the stuff that I got out of this class.
No, 100%. Like, I mean, come on, guys. He gave us our nickname the last day of class.
The light table. That's
the light table. So, I mean, I haven't made friends like that in a class in a while.
And I don't think I would have. It's funny because at the table, I was the only freshman. And so it's like me and you have gotten so close.
Yeah.
Even though we're in completely different parts of college, completely different places in life. But it's crazy that this has brought us together. And I've gotten to learn even more about you. You've learned more about me.
Yeah.
And then everybody else at our light table, like, Fields is also a senior. But, like, y'all are in different, like, walks of life right now, too. But seeing, like, in us with Caitlin and Carson and Precious, like, seeing how each of us are in, like, different years in college, different ways of life, how we all, like, had things in common and how we had things that were different, but we still worked good together as a team.
Yeah. And I feel so bad, Dr. Dar. I apologize. The one day I could not get over my giggles. And I couldn't help it because I just kept laughing. Then I looked at Carson's face and he's laughing at me. And then I look at Fields and she's like, don't look at me. So I'm like, what do I do with this? Like, the environment that we created in that class was incredible. Even the people who weren't at our table.
Exactly.
Like,
I was about to say that.
Like, the way we would interact with each other, like, when we had to go, what did we do? Where we had to go around and, it was for the guest speaker, the one guest speaker we had.
Yes, for, like, the Clifton Strengths.
Yes, where we all went around and were, like, finding similar traits. Like, I did not feel awkward at all. In another class, I would have been terrified, like, peeing my pants in the corner.
No,
like, oh my God, I don't know anyone. What do I do? What do I do?
And, like, when we were working we were all of us working together as a group, like, as a class on our midterm, like, the fact that, like, we were just helping each other out.
Yeah.
And, like, it was a collaboration thing. It was made, he made it so that we could collaborate with each other. And the fact that, like, we were just all, like, helping each other out, even from, like shouting words across the room. Like, it was so crazy how close, not even just, like we said, not even just our table, but the class as a whole. Like, I'm going to probably see some of these people over the next 3 years. And it's just, like, crazy how much the people in your class can influence what you get out of the class. And especially this being such an interactive and collaboration-based class, this was something that I needed. Yeah. And I almost not only needed for the class, but I needed for myself to show that, like, I can thrive in college. Oh, 100%. Like, even though I was so excited for college coming into this.
It's nerve-wracking.
Exactly. It's nerve-wracking. And it's like, you don't know, you're like, is this the right place for me? Is it not? And then walking into that class that day, and it being, like, my second class of the day on my very first day of college ever, like, wasn't used to this, like, even though the campus isn't huge, wasn't used to this big old campus. I was used to like a high school campus.
Yeah.
Coming in with people I've never even seen before. Not people like I've never seen any of these people, and sitting there and getting so much out of this class is just like, it's literally, I couldn't have like hoped for anything else.
No, me either. I mean, I know I told you, like, my whole roommate situation that happened. It, like, happened literally 2 days before school started, and I was like, oh, crap, I have no friends now. Like, what am I supposed to do? And then I walk into this class, like, no day, like, this class just made me feel better every day.
Yeah.
Like, when I would get up and I walk and see all your smiling faces, like, even if you weren't smiling, I would see all the faces, and I would get so excited and just be happy to, like, be there.
Exactly. And, like, even learning more about each other with our identity portfolios.
I loved that.
Like, just everybody, like, the full 4 minutes, everybody took their 4 minutes.
Oh, absolutely.
Took them. And I learned so much more about so many people.
So
like,
much.
People that don't even sit near us that, like, I wouldn't have spoken to on my own.
Yeah.
Like, learning so much about them and just, like, their life and their interest. It was like, these are, like, real people.
Yeah, they're not just, like, low-key, like, NPCs in your class. You know what I mean? Like, no, we knew everyone who was in our class.
Exactly.
Which was
and, like, even, like, this is kind of sad, but even, like, learning more about each other and the things, like, the setbacks that we've had in our life. Like, I know, like, you with your friend and me with my dad.
Yeah, 100%.
And Fields as well, like, and everybody else, like, people who have come from, like, different, like, what you wouldn't expect, and seeing how they've made it work for them and how they've grown past it and been able to talk about it with a class. Like, even with people that I'm close with, it was still hard for me to talk about those setbacks that I've had in my life and the things, like, that, like, still hurt me now. But being able to, like, see not only myself talk to other people about it, but see everybody else talk about the setbacks that they've had and how they've overcome them. Like, literally, that probably brought us closer together than anything else, because it shows that, like, none of us have had a perfect life.
Oh,
and
no.
we still walk in with smiles on our faces. Like, I love this class. I was like, this is my favorite class this semester. Like, it's not, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It is my favorite class.
It's this class.
Yes.
Right here.
Yes, exactly.
I 100% agree. I mean, I don't think there's much else to say. I mean, we could go on for hours about how much we love this class and how grateful we are for it. But I just thank you to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Dr. Dar. Thank you to all the guest speakers you brought for us. Everybody that was in the class.
The opportunities.
Exactly. The opportunities. Oh, my goodness.
And immense.
Yes.
Immense.
Oh, my goodness.
Forever grateful.
Yes. I will take this and run with it for the rest of my life.
No, I will remember, like, this class will be, like, a defining moment in my life. Like, I will remember this class, and it will take me through my whole life. Like, when I look back on fond memories in college, this class is one of them.
I will bring it up, and I will bring up, like, everybody's name. I'll be like, and this is in the class, and he was in the class.
Carson, Fields, Precious, and Elise. Like, I'm name dropping.
Like, I was like, guys, it was such a good class.
So powerful.
Yeah.
Tiny but mighty.
Exactly.
That's all I have to say.
Tiny but mighty.
Tiny
Leadership
but mighty.
minor.
Well, this is a sad thing to say, but
it's been fun.
It's been fun, y'all.
The podcast has been fun. The class has been fun.
Everything has been incredible, and I couldn't have asked for more.
Me neither. Developer Podcast out.
Bye. Please keep that in. Keep that in.
Oh my gosh.